Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Greetings, listeners. This is Ronda Chervin's Radio Journal, and the last few times, maybe 5 times, I've been reading a book I just finished called Crisis in the Church, but now I'm going back to the regular format, which is to talk about many different things. And God bless you all. Okay, one of the things involves a very sad subject, which is I am now 82, but I have a daughter who's 56, who's in home hospice with flow lymphoma. And it's very hard for me to accept this reality. It's 5 years she's been suffering with this, with a lot of pain. And I have to keep surrendering her to God and God's permissive will. So something came to my mind, which I think is from the Holy Spirit to help me, which is this thought. So in case you know someone in a similar situation, a parent with a younger child, a younger adult child who's suffering from a terminal illness, you could make use of this thought that if I surrender her to God, then I will have God and Carla too. That's her name, Carla. And Carla too, if not on earth, then in heaven. So I'll repeat that for you. If I surrender Carla to God, I will have God and Carla too, if not on earth, in heaven. Now, here's a quite different thought. Since I'm now retired from retiring with even less and less outside projects, I suddenly realized that my life now is more like that of Mary, the Mother of God on earth. That is, it has lots of prayer. She must have done lots of housework. And then she was available to talk to those who came by, or in my case, mostly people who call in or email me or leave a voicemail, some of them old friends and some of them strangers. So it gave me a good feeling to think it's not like my life as a professor and a writer and a workshop giver and a TV personality and all this, but it's more like that of Mary, the Mother of God, with so much time for prayer and not to have to shove the prayer in between things, but for that to be Holy Mass and prayer to be the main thing of my day, and then housework, and then pausing to talk to people who come by or people who call or people who email me. Here's something that Jesus seemed to tell me. With each new thing you do, avert to my presence and give it to me either as a gift to offer up for someone or in some other way, give it to Jesus, whatever I'm doing, whether it's something joyful or something sorrowful or something glorious, but to avoid just gliding from thing to thing. See, we tend to do that, just kind of glide or jump from thing to thing, whereas we should be in constant communication with Jesus, offering it to him and doing it with him. Once years ago, he asked me, why do you want to do anything without me, Rhonda? Think about it. Here's a story I came across, which I thought was such an interesting story. It was on September 11th, and for the commemorating the bombardment of the Twin Towers on 9/11, there was a story some of you may have read about a firefighter who rescued these people. And the story was that when he was a lad, years and years before, he used to wear a red bandana around his neck, and he would always say, someday I'm going to be a firefighter. And he did many other things, but he had decided when he was working in Twin Towers that he really wanted to go back to his dream of being a firefighter. But in any case, he always had this red bandana with him from childhood. And anyhow, when the planes went into the Twin Towers, he was way up high, and he started rescuing the people who were stuck and getting them around, the people going through the bodies that were in corpses already on the ground, but going through and finding the living ones and getting them to, helping them to walk down the stairs, many, many flights of stairs. And he did this several times when anyone else would have ran out of the building. He several times went back and found more people. And some of these people who he saved were on this program talking about him. And when people were trying to find out who he was, they all said, well, he had a red bandana, and that's how his relatives knew it was him. And so his old school chums from his teenage years celebrated him this year for his tremendous courage in 9/11. And they all wore red bandanas. And I was thinking when I saw them marching around with their red bandanas that this is like what we do with saints. When we have saints in the Catholic Church, we have relics from them. We have pictures of them. We have things that symbolize them around. So of course we have many of us have pictures of the saints. Some of us have medals of the saints. So this impulse to do that, to have some actual relic or picture, which some non-Catholics consider Catholics to be idol worshippers for doing it. Here's a perfect example of it just being common to human nature to want to have some sign and symbol of the person you admire. Another thing I thought of was this. This is just yesterday. I was meditating on the word graceful, as in a graceful dancer, or she walked in a graceful way, so forth. And like a dancer is always graceful. And I was thinking you could take that word graceful and break it up and think of how we say in the Rosary over and over again what the angel said to Mary, the Mother of God, Hail Mary, full of grace. The full of grace is like graceful. And I started thinking about how I could try to do everything that I do physically, to try to do it gracefully, as an opposite to doing it in a jerky, overly quick manner. Like from years of being kind of overextended as a wife and a mother, but also because my husband was disabled, also working full-time, I got into the habit of doing everything very fast, get it over quick so in case there's a family emergency, I still have the lesson plan for the students at the college, like that. So I got into this very excessively quick, jerky rhythm of doing everything. But now in my old age, as a retired person with very little to do, I could really do everything very slowly and pleasantly and sort of gracefully, like instead of banging a plate down on my little folding table, I could set it down gently. And instead of saying grace quickly, I could say it slowly. And I thought it was a very nice idea. And then I began to think of how in all the accounts of the apparitions of Mary, you never see her moving jerkily. You see her, floating down from heaven toward the people who are going to be able to see her as a special grace. Okay, now I wanted to tell you about another book that actually has come out. The book Crisis in the Church has not yet come out. But there's another book which I wrote, and I wrote it with Al Hughes, and he's a friend of mine, and a few years ago we started working on books together, which Sebastian and En route Books, Sebastian Mahfoud of En route Books, had published a few of these books. One of them is Escaping Anxiety on the Road to Spiritual Joy, and another one is Simple Holiness. But 2 years ago, I worked with the same Al Hughes, who's a retired lieutenant colonel of the Air Force, who then in his retirement became a spiritual counselor with a degree in pastoral counseling. And we worked, so after writing those two books, since I was turning 80 and he was turning 78, we decided to work on a book called What Now? A Roadmap for 80-Year-Olds and Beyond. And this book has just been published in a beautiful edition by En route Books and Media. And I just wanted to tell you about the different titles of the chapters. So we go through together writing. I write something, he writes something. We wrote about what are my dreams for my life? What were my dreams for my life? Like a lot of times people in the 80s when they have not too much to do, they think about these things. What were my dreams and what came out very differently from what I dreamed about doing? And then we have one, where did I succeed? Then one, where did I fail? And trying to see the good that came out of these things that we thought of as failures. And then we address pain and fear of worse pain. And then we have a chapter on if you're left behind by loved persons dying first. And another chapter, which was one that particularly Al Hughes had in mind, was being ignored by younger adults who think, well, we're over the hill, what can you tell us? And anxiety about living situations, like there are all these possibilities for 80-year-olds or late 70s or 90-year-olds of whether you want to live alone, do you want to live with relatives, do you want to live in a assisted living, do you want to live in a convalescent home, and so forth, addressing those issues, dealing with our limitations as 80-year-olds, and then capabilities of 80-year-olds, because many of us find that we're more capable than we thought we were. I have a little joke that I use for these things. When I tell myself, oh, I'm too old, I can't do this, like opening a jar or opening or dragging something from one room to another, where I live presently with a granddaughter and her husband and their family with little children in it. And I live in a separate downstairs, like mother-in-law suite, even though I'm a great-grandmother. And so they're not always around to help me. So I got into saying to myself, if someone gave me $500 to figure out how to open this jar, wouldn't I figure it out? And sure enough, almost 9 times out of 10, I think I can't do something, but it's just a little harder, and I really can do something. And then the last chapter is God's Call Now. Am I ready for the last journey? And it's a very pleasant, user-friendly book, very conversational with the reader. And I think you'd like it very much. So you might go back on this from the radio show to the publisher, En route Books, who sponsor the radio show, and take a look at the description of this book and get a copy either for yourself if you're nearing 80, or give it to your relatives who are old friends who are 80-year-olds. So let's see, what else did I want to be sure to say to you? I had said some time back that at my age I don't want the pressure of doing a weekly show, and this is true, or lining up interviews. So instead, whenever I collect some insights that I think are important and could be useful to any Catholic listener or any non-Catholic listener who can tap into these things which I believe to be wisdom, that I would just put them, collect them, and then put them into this radio show. So I don't know when exactly I'll be back, but if you're listening and you want to get in touch with me for any reason, you can reach me at my name backwards. That is my last name first, Chervin, CHERV for Victor, IN, Ronda, RONDA, @gmail.com. And I'm presently living in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I don't like to travel anymore, but I do travel a little in Arkansas to give talks and give parish workshops and things like that. And then sometimes someone interviews me on a radio show. So I'm still alive and doing things, but in a much slower, more relaxed, hopefully grace-filled way. God bless you all.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.